Mario, 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 Mario. Everything is about Mario. And yeah, given what he did for Nintendo being its poster boy, it's easy to see why there's 50 gajillion games with him. Some have been really good, some have been not so good. But today I am not talking about Mario games. I am talking about a particular hidden gem on the Game Boy Advance, starring no one else except Mario's disgusting capitalist fat counterpart, Wario. Wario as a character, I never really liked. He was kind of repulsive, kind of a jerk, kind of stupid. But I could see, given the success of Mario, why there could be Wario spin-off games. And the ones that most people think about are the big smash hits WarioWare for the Nintendo DS and the Wii. I never really enjoyed those games as a kid, and I still don't get them to this day. Maybe they're fun for parties, but it was never really my thing. But Warioland? Warioland was a really fun series. Wario is a bit more built than his counterpart Mario. So he has like charge attacks and jump attacks. He can like transform by getting hit by the environment. It's all very creative. And even though we play as a character that is greedy and kind of a jerk, I kind of look past it because the game is fun. Now, I've never played any of the previous Warioland games. The only one that I ever owned was for the Game Boy Advance, Warioland 4. So, I don't have all the experience in the world playing it, but I can say just the one for the Game Boy Advance, definitely worth it. Now, believe it or not, Warioland is actually a sequel to Mario's own game, Super Mario Land, making two very successful games for the Game Boy. And actually, Wario didn't appear in his own game. He was actually the main villain from Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, who you fight at the end. And I always remember fighting Wario, because he invades Mario's castle, so you have to go through the land and collect these 6 coins to get back into your castle, and you climb up these steps, and you take him out. And it's a super fun boss fight, and super memorable. But we're not talking about Super Mario Land. We're talking about Wario Land. So what about the game for this big guy makes it so much fun? Well, visually, it's an incredible game. You go through different worlds like deserts and oceans and caverns, and it looks really good. Now that is due to the technology of the Game Boy Advance having a 32-bit processor. But it has that Nintendo touch that makes it really memorable. See, the point of Wario Land 4 is not necessarily to go around saving any princess or saving a world from a dragon. It's Wario's really greedy, and he wants more money. So all the characters that you beat up in this game as Wario, they drop coins everywhere, and your goal in the game is to gather as much money as possible. Then after you beat the game, you get rated by how many artifacts and how much gold you've acquired throughout the game. So it adds a nice little twist for the player trying to find as much as they can to get that high score. One thing that I will say about Wario Land 4 is that the bosses are top-notch bosses. Maybe not the best bosses ever released in a Nintendo game, because that would be quite a claim. But they certainly have enough personality to be super memorable, each and every single one of those bosses. One thing that I remember that was really cool is that you could go to a shop right before you go to the bosses, and by playing mini games, you could earn gold coins to spend on like a Mr. Game&Watch looking kind of dude. I think if it might actually be Mr. Game&Watch. And depending on how much money you spent, you could actually bring him into the boss fight, and before you even fight, he'll damage the boss depending on which item he uses. Now the best one in my opinion is Visor Man, who's like the superhero Earthbound kind of character, and he comes down and Mr. Game&Watch brings him, and he just blasts him with like a Cyclops laser beam. He's like, and it takes down like a third of the boss's health. Is that the first time you go to fight the boss, there's going to be 3 treasure chests, and there's also a timer above the screen. And as the timer goes down and the more you spend fighting this boss, there's a chance that the treasure chests are going to be taken away. And if those get taken away, you can't get them back. So you got one shot to do it right. And I'll tell you what, it might be stressful, But running in and just blasting a boss, beating it as quickly as possible is really fun. And it feels satisfying when you receive all 3 treasure chests, even though you really don't get to see what's inside until the very end of the game after you beat the final boss. So even though I don't really like the character of Wario that much, I can't deny that his game for the Game Boy Advance is pretty fun. And a definite hidden gem if you haven't played it before. It's one of those rare kind of games that breaks away from the roots in just the right way to be its own thing. And does a really good job. So if you see a copy of Warioland 4, definitely pick it up. You won't be disappointed.